welcome to another episode of My Best 11 podcast. Today we are joined by the man who some people believe was the architect of Mike Newell's central midfield when Luton Town were on the rise in the mid-noughties, and now has gone on to an amazing managerial career. Spent a little bit of time at Oldham, and then has done some fantastic things at what he just quoted as the second favourite club of most people in Scotland. So today we are joined by Steve Robinson. How are you, Steve?
Good, Andrew. Good. I think that might be up for debate, that second favourite club in Scotland, but could be a few dissenters to that.
Okay, well, we'll find out. And Marv, how are you, Marv? And who do you go for in Scotland out of interest, Marv?
Good. Wee Robbo! Good to see you. Motherwell. Motherwell's my... He's right. No, he's wrong. Motherwell's a top club for me in Scotland. Motherwell...
Marv's been there. He's been seen the sessions. Everybody knows Marv. Marv's
been up. I loved it.
Everybody.
I loved it. I'm a Motherwell fan, a big Motherwell fan. And I was a big Motherwell fan, actually, believe it or not, before Robbo was there. I was. That's the truth. I was a big Motherwell fan.
Please explain that to me, how?
Mother. The word mother, because I love my mum. Everyone loves their mum, so I thought Motherwell. That was the team I chose. It's true.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, Mark. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the best 11, starting off with your formation. And then going through the team that you picked, and we're really interested to see how many players are in there from teams like Bournemouth and Preston, those type of clubs you play for, alongside obviously Luton as well, which I wasn't aware that you retired or you stopped playing after you finished playing with Luton. I wasn't actually aware of that.
Yeah, I had no choice really. I couldn't move anymore. I'd done Nichols running for him for 5 or 6 years, so do you know what I mean? My back was killing me. No, I had 3 back operations and went to see the specialist, and he said, "Have you got a good pension?" And I said, "No, not really." And he said, "Well, my advice is you have to give up if you want to play with your kids and pick them up." So I did and made that decision after, you know yourself, you can't get around the pitch as much, and my game was probably based a lot more on run about and a lot of energy than it was pure skill. So comes a time where you just know the time's right to give up, and I had an opportunity to go into coaching straight away as well. So the time just seemed right, and unfortunately, 33, I think it was, I retired. So
33, is that all you was?
33, yeah. I regret it now. To be honest with you, I genuinely think I could have played on for another 2 or 3 years, but I'd had that many operations and problems in and around my back and groin area, and I just thought, it's going to lead to things in later life where I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. But actually, I'm the opposite. Probably run more now than when I played, and go to the gym every day and cycle all the time. So it didn't materialize the arthritis and things that the specialist threatened with. So probably in hindsight, could I got another couple of years out of it? There'd be Luton fans saying, "No, you should have retired 2 years before that."
And what was the total amount of games? Do you know that, Robbo?
I think it was over 500 altogether. I think
500?
It was over 500 with all the cup games and all.
See, look at that. And he stopped at 33. I mean, I was 34, 35, and I only got to just 400. So you could have put on another 100 easily, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I was lucky enough to be averaging probably around about 30, 35 games a season, when you were playing. So I was from 18, I made the decision. I left Spurs to play for Bournemouth because I won first team football. So, you go from, I think players now sit about until they're 22, 23 with the luxury of being at Man City and Liverpool and the tag of being a Liverpool and Man City player when they aren't actually playing for them. They're a youth team player, and then they find at 22 they're trying to play, where I just made the decision I wanted to play football, and it was the best decision I made.
Oh, excellent. So, moving on to your formation then. So you got your best 11. How long did it take you? And then moving on to your formation, Steve.
Well, you should have seen the team I had out first of all, because it was only when my son came in that he reminded me who actually I played with. So I forgot everybody I played with. So I was going for all Luton players, and then I got reminded of a few really, really good players I played with. So I've chopped and changed a bit, and there's a few that debatable ones as well. So I've got a mixture of everything. My formation is not my favourite formation as a manager, I can assure you. But I've always
worked with this group.
Yeah, with this group, it's all about people say about your formations and all that there. And now I've gone into the management side of it. Your best formation is what your players can play. It's about your players. It's not about you. You know, if you're at a big football club, yeah, you buy the players to fit into that formation. But unfortunately, with this one, it was needs must. And we look a wee bit like a long ball team, but both players I've got up front are, I couldn't leave either of them out, so I went with both of them, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that somewhere along the line.
So what is your formation then?
4-4-2, basic 4-4-2, of which I never, ever play. Mike Newell will have a heart attack if he hears me saying that. You know, I'm a big 4-3-3 man, or 3-5-2. I think 4-4-2 is a lot of straight line football, and you know, we like to play and get the ball down and play, and people rotating a lot.
Well, so if you ever get a chance to listen to Newley's one, those formations, you don't stay in those formations. They play drafts. You got. If you have a draft set, he's not talking about a draft set. But anyway, that's another issue.
He is right. To be fair, he is right, because I believe there's 5 yards between every system. You know, 4-2-3-1 is 4-4-2 with striker dropping in. You know, 3-5-2. If you freeze frame any attacking situation, your fullback's high. You've got your left back, your two centre halves, a back three straight away. So I do think a lot's made of. Too many people watch Monday Night Football now, and they're all experts, and they actually probably couldn't coach other formations. So, but I've gone with 4-4-2 to fit the players I want in it anyway.
Okay, so
excellent. So let's get going.
Clue.
Goalkeepers.
Don't say the names.
Clues as we go.
Tell them, Andrew.
So don't give us too many clues as we go through, and myself and Marv will see how far back our memories go.
So you'll get this one straight away. This is rubbish. To be fair, is he the best goalkeeper I've played with? He's a top goalkeeper, playing at a top level. But he's certainly the funniest goalkeeper I ever played with.
At Luton? At Luton?
At Luton. He was at Luton, yeah.
Marlon,
yeah. I have to go for Marlon. Marlon was, and he's come on my coaching path with me as well. So, but Marlon was a top goalkeeper. Obviously played Premier League, top level, big organizer. And you know, when we had the success at Luton, it was only me and Marlon actually left. We sold everybody else. We sold Viney, we sold Big Howie, Kevin Foley, Curtis Davies. The list goes on. So it ended up being me and Marlon, and we got the blame for the dismay of us losing games all the time. So, but a great lad in the dressing room, absolutely great lad. And as I say, I brought him with me to Motherwell in the first season when I was here. Coincidentally, he left and we got the 2 cup finals. So there must have been something when he left. And then I actually brought him on Northern Ireland with me as well. He came in with the under-21s when I was coaching with the under-21 squad as well. So we go back a long way, long way. But top goalkeeper, you know, good left foot when he could reach the halfway line, when his back wasn't too sore to kick the ball. But, you know, top man, top goalkeeper, but a great lad as well.
But maybe you can answer this question, because obviously I remember Marlon. As goalkeepers goes, I thought Marlon was quite smart. No, yes.
Well, he's got his own business and all now as well, hasn't he? He runs an accountancy business and hasn't got a clue about it. So I don't know how he manages to do it. He got friends with people at school, and they've sort of carried him through. So no, Marlon, he was quite bright. He was a thinker. You know, him and Paul Underwood. They were thinkers in the game. You know, and we long conversations about football. So, you know, it didn't surprise me, and especially when I went into coaching and management myself, Marlon was somebody I would bounce a lot of stuff off, because he understood the game. Usually find goalkeepers, you know, they do the see everything, don't they? They're behind every bit of play. They're behind all your defensive shape, your attacking shape. So they're usually mad, but they're usually crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Marlon was crazy as well, to be honest. But very funny. But he knew the game inside out, and you know, I mean, a couple of times he actually set me down and told me off for taking too many touches on the ball and things, and actually took me into Newley's office one day to show me a clip of myself and tell me I was turning too many times. Just give the ball to somebody who was better than me. So I big opinion on the game, but as I say, top goalkeeper and a top boy as well.
Lovely. So moving on to right backs or left backs, where are you going to go for, Steve?
Right back was a hard one. It was a really hard one. So I had Kev Foley in first of all. Kev was only young, obviously only played one season with Kev. Again, another great boy as well, really talented boy. But I had to edge him out for Graham Alexander. You know, ex-Luton boy as well. But I didn't play at Luton with Graham. It was Preston. I played with Greza, and Greza was technically probably the best player, one of the best players I played with. We, you know, at Preston, we got into the playoffs, just missed out in the Premier League with the playoff in Cardiff, and Greza was the main man. You know, his distribution with both feet wasn't quick, wasn't never super quick, Greza, but never got done. Really intelligent footballer. Obviously went on to play for Scotland as well, and got caps under his belt. But I mean, to play with, he was a dream, a centre forward's dream. The service into you, deliveries into the box, and penalty. Probably the best penalty kick taker I've ever seen. Never missed. Never ever missed. So, and again, a friend of mine, somebody that I live very close to at Preston.
Yeah, great lad.
Marv knows him well as well. So yeah, he had to be. He had to be. I put him up as. I keep trying to find a Graham Alexander as a right back up here, but they're not available nowadays.
Who signed you at Preston? Was that Moyes as well?
Moisey, yeah. Moisey signed me and then never played me. So signed me for $500,000. But I came into a team, you know, one of those times you come into a good team. They'd got promoted from League One and they were in the Championship, and they had a midfield, Sean Gregan and Mark Rankin, and it worked for them. And Moisey said he was going to give them a chance first of all. And I never quite broke in. I played 30 odd games, you know, coming on and off, but was never really broke into the team. And to be honest, I didn't play well. One of those places where it didn't quite work for me. But good club, had good players, and Greza was, as I say, it was a brilliant season to be involved in. I had my injury problems there, you know, with my ankle and my back, and I know carried a lot of injuries there, but still managed to get 30 games in. I don't know how. They weren't great games, mine 30 bad games, I think it was.
But what made you go there? What did you have another club as an option? Did Moyes persuade you? Like, did he sell you the club to get you to go there? Because obviously, is that from Bournemouth you went there?
Yeah, it was from Bournemouth. I had the choice of both Bournemouth and Burnley and Preston. I think it was Stan Turnham was manager of Burnley at the time. So Mel Machin, who was manager of Bournemouth at the time, was very friendly with Stan, and there was you know, both teams that were interested. I think they might have both put offers in. But once I met Moisey's very convincing. Brilliant manager, excellent manager, and you know, it's funny. I learned a lesson that when you're in football, it's always quick to blame managers and slag people off and come out in the press and say things you shouldn't say. But I didn't, you know, and I kept. Moisey treated me very, very well. He was honest with me. He gave boys a chance, and once he got me, he was, and I learned loads from him management-wise. You know, really, really good manager. Didn't quite work out for me, but you know, sometimes you have to look in the mirror yourself. And I didn't perform at Preston. I was up against good players, and I never showed the best of me either. And I always tried to speak Moisey with respect, and he's been very good with me since. You know, he allowed me to come into Everton when he was there and look at stuff as well. So yeah, probably maybe not the right move, but. In hindsight, it's a great thing. You know, I went into a team that were doing very, very well, and I never got the game time I probably wanted, really.
Yeah, no, and the team coming up, you never know what's going to happen. They're either going to sink or they're going to fly.
They got the playoffs, so and the reality is the boys were excellent. You know, I didn't play well enough to get in, so you have to look in the mirror. I'm not one of these modern day players that it's everybody else's fault, and the manager's the only person that ever tells you the truth now, because their agents tell them they're great, their mums and dads tell them they're great, their girlfriends and boyfriends tell them they're great, all their teammates say you can't believe you're not being dropped, and unfortunately the manager is the only one. But in our day it was you knew when you were good, you knew when you were bad, and you could take criticism. Unfortunately, the snowflake world we live in now, you can't do that. Management's completely different, unfortunately.
So left back, where have you gone for? Is this in a bit easier?
It was, and I played Unders won't be happy with me, but Unders didn't play at left back all the time, so he just has to accept that Unders. You would have been in there, son, but I put Saul Davis in there. Saul was. Listen, that team that got promoted was a brilliant team, and I haven't got enough players probably in there from it. But Saul, great left foot, was one of the toughest boys I ever played with. Hard as nails, only small, would fight his own shadow, would start a fight in an empty room as well. But he his distribution, he's just an all-round player, up and down, energy, delivered balls into the box. And, you know, that division to get out in League One, you need people that can fight and scrap as well. And, you know, we had him, we had Nico, we had me, who just ran about. That was probably it, really. But Saul gets in there. I couldn't think of any other real left backs. You know, Johnny Evans, I was in lots of squads with, and Johnny played at left back for Northern Ireland on occasions as well. But, you know, over time, Saul was excellent, really, really good.
At Bournemouth, did you not have a decent left back?
Yeah, well, little Beardo, Russell Beardsmore played at left back, and then I had Richard Hughes as well, who was at Southampton. You know, so yeah, but as an out-and-out defender, 1v1 defender, Saul was excellent. Nobody got past Saul. nobody got past Sol, and I think everybody remembers that tackle at Stoke away. That was the craziest tackle I've ever seen. Like, you'd probably end up in prison for that now in the game, So when he got a red card afterwards, and there was a wee bit of ruckus afterwards. I won't mention any names, but there was a wee row afterwards. Sol and another player got sent off, and there's a couple of boys that weren't in the squad that day. There was a bit of ruction afterwards up in one of the boxes, private boxes. So I think even Sol learned his lesson that day. So I won't commit any names that it happened with, but he was a tough boy, tough boy, and a really, really good player. And unfortunately, obviously, Sol had a stroke in that as well, and it wasn't the same after that. But I think he could have went and played at higher levels as well. So it's unfortunate, but again, a lot of these boys I'm picking as well are great boys, good boys, and if you're in the trenches with people, Sol, you want them in the trenches with you.
And it's funny you're saying that, because when we had Howie on earlier on, he said the same thing to Dean Andrew. He's like, a lot of the boys he was picking was similar to yourself. Like he said, just great lads. And that's the big thing, I think, which comes out a lot. I mean, but listen, Sol was a great player as well. But on top of that, I think the best thing is that when you've got a great camaraderie and you've got a great team spirit, which obviously you lot had, that speaks volumes.
We were a team of, we're all over the place. Reprobates, we just newly brought everybody in from clubs where we hadn't done well enough or we'd lost our way, and people are, renowned as bad boys and things like that there, and just put a really good group of boys together that were honest and hard working, and it's amazing how far you can get with that, and he gave us our reins, he let us run the football club, and and he knew what he was doing because the boys managed each other. He didn't need to do loads. We pushed each other, and Sol was right at the top of that.
So you're looking at, you've mentioned the team just then, and obviously you managing Motherwell now. Is that kind of like the pinnacle? Is that what you look for as a manager in terms of that Luton team that went up that season from League One up to the Championship? Is that what you look for in terms of personalities, that you'd love to get that type of team together? Or were they a little bit loose and you probably wouldn't want that far?
No, I mean, see the players we had at Luton, they don't exist anymore. They don't exist. The academy system and the, English under-23 football, and it's fluffy. Everything's fluffy. They don't create characters like they did for that team. I'm sure Marv will say the same. Nowadays you don't get that. We had it a little bit when I first came up here. We played 3-5-2. We were renowned as long ball. We got the 2 cup finals. We're a small club. Motherwell are one of probably the third lowest budget in Scotland. We get 4,000 fans. We're competing against teams with £70 million budget: Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeens, 9s and 10 millions, Hearts and Hibs and teams like that. So we have to find a way to compete with them. So we got boys, and my first team that I put together was a team of men, real men, and we never got the credit for the football we played, but we got the 2 cup finals. Got beat by a Celtic side that were treble winners 2 years in a row, and so they reminded me of the camaraderie and team spirit, and for what they lacked in talent, and they had talent. That's a bit derogatory to say that, but they weren't there. They weren't tic-tac and super football all the time, but they could scrap and fight and battle, and when they were anything that went against them, they fought together, and so winning together was brilliant. Now we changed a lot, and we've developed lots and lots of young boys through our own academy, and soul boys, David Turnbull and James Scott for 1.5 million and 3 million, and they're boys that have been brought up in our way of thinking. We've brought other boys in a little bit like Newley did. I've brought boys in who don't do well, don't fulfill their potential at 22, 23, drop down the ladder, and maybe attitude problems, but they've all got attributes: pace and quality and decent characters. That's the biggest thing, and that I learned a lot from that. If they're not a good character, you can't change them. All the coaching in the world isn't going to change them. And I've brought boys in where sometimes I've made a mistake, but quickly you've got to go, boom, out you go, away. You can't let them rot the football club. And I learned that as well from, lots of things when Newley, and at the time you don't realize it. But, that team that went up, there was so much character in it, and nobody bitched. It was the only time when I seen a manager get sacked that everybody was got it. The boys that weren't in the team, who are usually the ones that are bitching and moaning about everything. Everybody loved Newley because he managed everybody and treated everybody like humans. And I suppose I've tried to take that on board. And what I would give for probably 4 or 5 of the Luton boys to go in and, shake things up a wee bit and manage the dressing room. But, times have changed. Management has changed. It's an arm round. It's a cuddle. It's cajoling. We do try and play. We do try and pass the ball. Boys make mistakes. And I'm one of those, if you're going to shout at somebody, give them a reason why now. So I've had to change everything I'm doing, and probably how I was brought up, and how I managed to, evolve with the times. You have to, unfortunately. You have to. But I certainly missed that. I certainly missed the men.
I can imagine. So, moving on to centre-backs.
These are two good centre-backs. These are two top centre-backs. So, my first one right side
you
of the
can't pick me. I thought you said
I didn't play with you. I only trained with you.
I thought you
were
two
too old.
centre-backs.
You were finished when I come.
That's true. I played against you, didn't I? Oh, yeah. And I'm sure he's going to get it out there, Andrew, the story about his shoulder.
Yeah. So he knocked me into the stand at Bournemouth, put dirtiest foul ever, done my shoulder, was out 6 weeks, so there's no way you're getting in the team after that. No way. You were on the way down when I was playing you.
What, in training? He did that to you in training, did he?
No, he done it to me when he was playing for Luton, and absolutely smashed me into the hoardings over the stand and done my shoulder. So that's not been forgotten.
I forgot. Did I get sent off for that?
No, referees.
Did I get a booking for that? Did I get a booking for that?
You'd have got a 6-game ban now.
I didn't get a booking or sending off because, even though I was on my way down, I could stay with you, you little wee rabbit thing, right? And
that wasn't
you
hard,
out
was it? Anyway, I've gone for two proper centre halves. Saul Campbell. So Saul was. I was at Spurs with Saul. So Saul was in my youth team. Funny enough, Saul was a centre forward when we played in the youth team. So me and Saul were the only two players out of that youth team. We won the youth cup as well that actually went on to be professional footballers, over a length. There was a couple that stayed in the game for a couple of years, but it was only probably me and Saul that actually went on. And Nick Barmby, who was the year above, but in them days, youth team grouped together over under 16s and 18s. So, Saul, I think that speaks for itself. Probably the biggest, strongest man I've ever played with. He was a man mountain, calm on the ball, and obviously his career that he's going on to have was.
He was a centre forward, did you say?
Saul was a centre forward. Actually, if I remember rightly, Saul.
I heard that.
Spurs up front. I'm sure
I think he did. I think you're right. He did.
Because it was me and Saul played up front together, and because I scored 50. I remember I broke the record. Was it the South East Counties? Was that the league called then? South East Counties. So I scored 50 odd goals in a season. And then I think the next year somebody came and broke it. It was probably Dave Healy. He broke every other record I had during the thing. Somebody else.
So you was a centre forward. You was a centre forward.
It was me. Me and Saul played centre forward. So Saul, as you can imagine, just knocked everybody about, and I just run in behind and scored from 2 yards.
I saw that you played 2 games in the Premiership. It said on the Wikipedia. Who was that against? For Spurs.
Against Blackburn. The year Blackburn won the league. So I played.
Where do you play? Up front, to the forward.
Up front. Me and Nick Barmby. So it was the smallest centre forward pairing in history. So that was the team with the famous 5. So that was the Klinsmann came out just after that. So it was Darren Anderton, Klinsmann. Was it Dimitrescu? Was it who else was in there? But it was like there were some top players there at that time. But by Blackburn, we played against Blackburn, and Colin Hendry kicked me up and down the pitch like I've never been kicked before. Honestly, it was the game. Eric, because that was why I wasn't sure about putting Marlon in. Eric Thorsfeld got a 10 in the newspaper. We should have got beat. Honestly, we should have got beat 20-0.
What was the score?
I think we drew 0-0. I can't actually remember. It's that long ago. I think it was 0-0, but Eric Thorsford got a 10. That's how dominant Blackburn were.
And who was the other game against?
Newley was playing.
I was going to say that. Surely Newley would be, yeah.
Yeah, so it was Newley. It was that era with Shearer, Newley, Sutton. That was their strike force. That was when Blackburn were absolutely flying. So that was.
And who was the other game against? You played twice, it said.
QPR, and I hit the crossbar against QPR. So fine lines divided, and I tore my hamstring the same game. Was out 6 weeks and never played again. And the best thing is, I actually knocked on Ozzy Ardele's door and couldn't believe that I wasn't in the squad ahead of Jurgen Klinsmann. So you live and learn and think, really? Now I look back and think, did I really do that? Did I really believe I should be in the squad ahead of Jurgen Klinsmann? But I was young. That's my excuse.
That's good. I like that. You haven't changed one bit.
No.
No, but you can believe in yourself. You have to believe in you. You know what I'm like. If you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? That's good.
There's belief in delusion, but Marv, and I think that was probably delusional that I should be in front of Jurgen
Klinsmann. And he just won the World Cup then? Come back?
He'd come in.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you live and learn, huh?
You do. So Sol Campbell provides that strength and that physical presence in there. What was he like? Because he comes across very softly spoken.
Sol was.
Was he a white line fever defender?
Sol was just horizontal. Nothing stressful. He was a man mountain. He was in control of everything. Nothing fazed him at all. You could see that with his strength. As his career went, he got better and better and better on the ball, and obviously grew with confidence and just developed into a top class footballer. As I say, in them days, a lot of it was brute strength. He was running behind, knocking people about as a centre forward, and Sol played a wee bit everywhere, centre midfield. Then gradually dropped back to find his right position, but nothing got past him. And then he was obviously sensational for both Spurs and Arsenal as well.
Oh, awesome! Who's next to Sol Campbell then?
Another cracker, Rio Ferdinand. So Marv didn't believe me that I played with Rio.
No,
but
I forgot him.
Was he on loan at Bournemouth?
He was on loan at Bournemouth. We had a really good connection with West Ham at the time. Mel Machin and Harry Redknapp were friends. So we had a lot of West Ham connections. So we brought Rio down, and we had Matty Holland, Steve Jones. So we were able to recruit all the boys that weren't maybe quite good enough at that time to be in West Ham's first team. And Rio came down for 6 months, and Rio was exceptional. He was a Rolls Royce of a footballer. He just glided past people like they weren't there. And I've actually got footage of him with the worst celebration I've ever seen after we scored, doing a stupid dance. But you could see straight away, there's probably two players in that team where you played with and you thought, oh, they're special. And Rio was special. Rio, you could tell straight away. And he was only a young boy at that time. He was only 18. Him and Michael Dubry from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Ended up at Stoke.
Michael Dubry, Rio Ferdinand, Russell Beersman. So a really good team at Bournemouth. Really flamboyant team. And, Rio was outstanding. And when I was thinking of my centre halves, I thought, how can I not include Sol and Rio? So
it's the England centre back pairing for 10 years.
Yeah, heck of a back four, that. Really good back four.
So I remember I said to you, because when you said to me about it, I said, I remember playing the game against him and Mitchell hammering 4p after the game because no one really had heard of Rio, and it was a case where Mitchell's going, you let that you let that skinny little 18-year-old boy from West Ham on loan have you in his pocket, and it turns out it was Rio because he was so comfortable and he played well that day. I can remember the game. He played really, really well. So comfortable on the ball.
I think he went straight back. West Ham called him back, and I think he went straight into the first team and never came back out of it again. It was funny, him and Michael Dubry, because I remember Michael Dubry got called back by Chelsea as well, and they didn't want to go. They were loving Bournemouth that much. Bournemouth was, at that time, we were just young boys all enjoying ourselves, and Bournemouth's like living abroad for 6 months of the year down there. So we were just having fun, playing football, and the boys loved it. So the two of them, it's funny, the two of them were actually wanted to stay at Bournemouth, but went back and obviously had very good careers, especially Rio went on and was a superstar, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what we can do is we're going to pause it there, Steve, and we'll hear an ad break from our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll hear about the midfield and the strike force.
Thank you for listening to My Best 11 Pod. We are currently accepting applications for advertisement and sponsorships. You can reach us at My Best 11 Pod or mybest11pod@gmail.com. Thank you.
So we're back for part 2 of Steve Robinson's My Best 11. So far, we got in goal Marlon Beresford, Graham Alexander, Sol Davis, Sol Campbell, and Rio Ferdinand. So let's keep going. Wherever you wish to start, sir. Where are we going to go for?
So I'll start right wing, so my 4-4-2. And Burke was going to hate me. Ahmed Berkovic is going to hate me because he was my mate. He was my best mate at the club. Him and Nico and Harry, and we always travel together in the car together. But when I can blame Harry for this, my son, because I actually forgot about this one, Keith Gillespie. So I played with Keith. Keith was actually my youth team all the way through. We played from under 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s in Northern Ireland. Played all the international setup all the way through. And I mean, when Keith was on his pump, when he was playing well, he was unplayable. He was absolutely brilliant. But it was a close call with Berko because Berko was talented, a really, really talented boy. Nico and Paul Underwood used to always say they'd do all the donkey work, and me and Berko would just go and do what we wanted and play where we wanted and run where we wanted. but he was so creative, little genius, and a talented boy. But I think if you look at the levels both played at, Keith has to get it. Playing at when he was in that Newcastle side as well under Kevin Keegan. He was brilliant. He was outstanding. And again, another great boy, great fun. Obviously had his problems and issues and that with gambling, but he was, great boy. Knew him from he was very, very young and knew all his family and all as well. Still speak to him and stay in touch. So he has to. That would be good for the two people I've got up from that had to consider crosses getting into the box. So Keith was probably one of the best crossers of the ball that you could find in when we played.
No, he's a great player. Great player. Wasn't he part of that Andy Cole deal? That's why he ended up at Newcastle, wasn't he? He started off at United.
Aye, that's right. He was at United, played a few games for them, and then he went as a bit of an unknown. Went as a bit of an unknown, didn't he, to Newcastle? And then, Kevin Keegan took him under his wing, and Keith liked the night out and maybe party and liked the drink as well. And he was the fittest person you could ever imagine. He could run all day. Keith could drink all night and run all day, honestly. And
was he one of those people who come back in July time? And you kind of how's he pre-season? He'll just start running up hills.
I'll have starved myself for 3 weeks and been out running every day, and he was still cruising past you, And the culture in them days was you could do that. And Keith was one of those boys that certainly lived life to the full. But when you put him on the pitch, it looked like he was the fittest boy in the world, and nothing bothered him. And I think if he stopped doing that, his body wouldn't have known what was going on, So he was, but really talented and chipped in with goals, deliveries into the box, quality, top class, top Premiership footballer.
Talking about right wing, didn't you play right wing or right midfield for Luton for a little bit? What are you laughing at? What are you laughing for?
I was picking up for when you asked me who was my best manager, and I was going to say Big Joe Kinnear.
Oh, okay.
I played one game for Luton, and that was my debut as right wing. So I don't think Joe knew who I was when he signed me. That's the truth. I think Big Mick wanted me in the building, and they thought Matthew Spring was going to leave. So because Mick was probably pushing me, and I don't know how true this was, but Mick was pushing me, and Big Joe might not have been 100% sure about it. So I think Mick told him that I could play on the right. So the first game of the season, he played me on the right-hand side. And you remember the boy Robbie Winters? Was it Robbie Winters? Scottish boy from Aberdeen. I think he only played a half. And he played me right wing. I think he played Robbie left wing and Thorpe through the middle. So he signed me and Thorpe the same day. And he took me and Thorpe off at half time, and Robbie Winters took us off and never played us for about 6 weeks. And then he called me into the office. So Joe called me into the office and he said, right, and Mick standing behind him, Big Mick laughing in the background, chuckling. And he said, when was the last time you got to the byline and beat somebody and put the ball into the box? I went, fucking never. I've never played right wing in my life. Probably the last time I done that was when I was 11. So he turned around and looked at Mick, and Mick was just like chuckling, laughing. He said, so about 2 years later, I seen Joe in a restaurant, and I walked in and he said, here he is. Here. I said, hey, Joe. He said, here he is, the fucking winger. He's like laughing his head off. So Joe was brilliant. Joe was a character, absolute character, but eventually he got me into the middle of the pitch, and it was me and Nico and Springy. I think, did Springy get injured or something? Or did he play the three of us in there? Springy left, didn't he? Did Springy go eventually?
Yeah.
Springy left.
Yeah, he left. But,
the idea was I was coming in and Springy was going. It didn't quite materialise.
Right.
I think Mick might have just told Joe that I was a good right winger when I was about 8. So that was the last time I played right wing anyway.
I got a question for you. I didn't realise, obviously, when you spoke about your Tottenham days, I didn't know you was a centre forward. So when you scored all those goals at Bournemouth, was you midfield or centre forward?
No, I was midfield then. Actually, I signed for Bournemouth.
So why did you go? Who put you in midfield?
Mel Machin. So Mel Machin.
Did he buy you as a centre forward though?
Brought me down as a centre forward. Yeah, I played 2 games, and then he put me back into midfield. So it was me and.
What do you mean back? What do you mean back? You said you played centre forward all your youth team days. I don't know. I'm lost. So what do you mean? He pushed you backwards. You mean into midfield?
Into midfield.
Oh, okay.
Back into midfield. Yeah, I never played midfield in my life. But I have to say, it was a loose version of midfield because we used to just hit Big Steve Fletcher, and I used to run forward every time. And I scored 60. I think I scored 69 goals for Bournemouth from there.
16.
69.
Yeah, 16 in 98.
Yeah.
Oh, I said 16 goals in one season.
16 in one season. Yeah, I remember getting 16 in one season, and I got 13, 10. So it's like double figures for probably 4 or 5 seasons, which was brilliant. And Then I left Bournemouth, so I got 69 goals and I scored 11 goals the rest of my career. And I was trying to figure out the coincidence. It was Harry. Harry was born. That's what happened. I had my first had my first child, and that was it. All my goals dried up. So, no, they were good times, but they were good times. But I converted winger.
Converted in the midfield.
Yeah, converted to midfield. So that was Mel Meach, and I have to thank for that. Got another great manager.
Yeah, he would have been. He would have been. So left wing. Let's move over to the left-hand side.
Left wing, Nick Barmby. So I had to pull Barnes out as well. Barnes played off the left for Spurs at times, but I know when he was at Liverpool, he played off the left as well. So I had to get him in there because I've gone very big up front. So I had to have a load of technical quality to slip people through and add goals. But Barnes was one of my best mates. At Spurs, we drove in together. We're everywhere together, and stayed really, really friendly outside of football as well. So again, a lad who I kept in touch with for a long, long time. Lost touch a little bit now. Still get a text every now and again when, if he's always there if you need football. You drift apart a little bit, but it's top talent. Nick was top class. One of the most intelligent footballers. Wasn't super quick, not really tall, but his level of intelligence. You don't get moves like that. That he signed for $5 million for Liverpool, and then went to Everton as well, and was a top player. He was in the Liverpool team that won all the trophies when they win 5 trophies that year?
Yeah, was that 99?
Yeah, and he was in the famous 5 when he played. When Ozzy was there, and it was just cavalier football, and it was brilliant. But I played with Barnes in my youth team, and you could just tell. And he had 2 of the worst operations I've ever seen. Big Zorro scars down his calves. His calves were too big and had to get them taken out. So really big things he had to overcome, but determination and just no matter how much money he had or no matter how well he done, he just stayed so down to earth. And always I preach to players, don't forget where you came from. And he was a perfect example. A boy from Hull, never forgot his roots. Obviously lived there all his life, went back there, married a girl from Hull, Mandy, who my family were all very friendly with, and his 2 boys who I was very friendly with. So yeah, top class, top Premiership footballer. Really, really talented boy.
No, he's definitely. Didn't he? Wasn't he part of the England squad as well? I know he's in France '98, and I've got vivid memories of Euro '96, but that might be wrong.
No, he was Euro '96. I'm nearly sure he was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because you were talking about. I wasn't sure if he was too young, or he obviously would have got in at a really young age.
He's the same. Nick's a year older than me, so he's 32. Aye. Yeah, Mark.
I don't even know how old you are.
Yeah, don't even ask. I think Nick's about 46. I think he's about 46. So we'll work that back. He was definitely involved in England camps and squads. He definitely
yeah.
European World Cup, and that tells you the level of him with the squad that England could pick from. But a great boy, hard work and dedicated. An example. What an example of young football.
What was his? Where did he play? Because he played in so many different positions. He could play off the front as a 10. He could play on the left. I've seen him play on the right. He reminded me. Was he quick?
No.
Was he quick?
Wasn't it?
He reminded me of like a Teddy Sheringham sort of player. Like you said, a very smart, clever, who could feed people different balls, reverse balls into people. That sort of player.
He always reminded me of Kenny Dalglish, and Kenny Dalglish was his hero. And he reminded me of Kenny, but he could play anywhere. He's just an intelligent footballer. When he played at Spurs, he played off the left, sometimes played in behind, as you say, played off the right, and it didn't matter. He always affected the game, scored goals, great finisher, but dedicated to, every day out doing extra finishing all the time. And got his just rewards with a brilliant career.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about brilliant careers, yourself obviously got capped for Northern Ireland, which would have been an absolute honour, I'm sure. What can you just talk through what happened in terms of your first call up? How did it come about? Was it unexpected?
I was at Spurs. I was at Spurs at the time when I got called up. So it was a tour of Asia, and we ended up the game. A lot of games got cancelled, so we only had a game against Thailand. So my debut was against Thailand, and we went there for a 3-game tour. Brian Hamilton was the manager. I used to be quite good when I was younger, I think. So when I was at Spurs, so you always had a reputation in Northern Ireland. So you're always on the verge of things. So I was in the B squad, and then you were in the under 21. There wasn't an under 21 team at that stage. Northern Ireland didn't have one. They had a B squad. So we had an unbelievable B squad. It was Lenny and Steve Lomas and Michael Hughes, Michael O'Neill. So it was a really, really good team. And then it was a end of season tour. So a lot of boys pulled out of it. So I got my first cap due to that. And all the games were cancelled bar one. So we made my debut in Bangkok against Thailand. About 40 degrees, humidity was ridiculous. And then all the other games got called off. So we actually had 10 days in Thailand at a 5-star resort with characters such as Lenny, Steve Lomas, Kevin Horlock, Jim Magilton, Ian Dowie. And from Marv's boys, Tags was right in amongst it. So there was me and Jerry McMahon, and Jerry was at Spurs with me. Jerry was a boy that signed from Glenavon from Northern Ireland. Me and Jerry were at Spurs together, so we were the two young ones and stayed out of the way and stayed together. So, but it was that was a brilliant trip. Great. I'd love to be able to tell you some stories about that trip. But Roy
stayed out of the way. Did you say you stayed out of the way?
Yeah, well, we stayed out of the way.
How can you stay out of the way in Bangkok?
With 10 days off. 10 days. I think
exactly.
Give up in the end. He said, okay, you can have 1 or 2 days, but in the end, I think he just gave up and went, right, go and do what you want to do. I think the boys drunk themselves dry after about 3 days and started running in the end. But no, that was my debut. So one you're never ever going to forget. Never going to forget.
That must have been pretty bonkers, though, because Thailand would have been an absolute full stadium, I assume. Kind of about 50, 60,000 in there, wasn't it?
They're obsessive with their football, aren't they? So I think it was 90,000 at the time. So heck of a debut. And it was, listen, I had lots of the squads went over there, and I only managed to get 7 caps, and that's probably my biggest regret in football. And I was in so many squads, but didn't actually get on. You're sitting on the bench a lot, so I understand people when they're frustrated sitting on the bench. But I had lots of good players in front of me. I had Premiership players in front of me. Michael Hughes, who was very, very talented boy. Jim Magilton, Neil Lennon, Steve Lomas. Really, really good players, Premiership players.
Did he score? Did he score? Did he score for your country?
No, didn't score.
Close? In the post? No?
A game against Spain where I only touched the ball twice, so scoring a goal would have been good. The midfield was Xavi, Iniesta and Senna that we played against, so Nigel Woodman sent me on at half-time. I remember him sending me on at half-time, and the midfield was me, Sammy Clingan and Steve Davis. And I remember saying to Devo after about 20 minutes, have you touched the ball? And he'd been on the whole game, and he said, I've touched it twice the whole game. So, and Stevie Craigan, who's a good friend of mine, managed to score an OG, and we got beat 1-0. So, yeah, it was, but you're playing against top talent, and the experience of being in that international squad, and I was always ever so proud to represent my country, very patriotic. So it was brilliant experiences, great experiences.
No, it would be. I'd love to do that myself. So, central midfield.
So I've got a combination here of Steve Davis. Steve Davis is arguably the best footballer I've played with, and he's 36 now and playing for Rangers still, and he looks like he's 18 with the energy. But I mean, he is world class. He is world class. Not sure. I don't think he had the recognition probably until later on in his career. But when he broke the Northern Ireland caps record, and you see the people actually speaking about him. Pochettino, Ronald Koeman, Johnny Evans, all top footballers and managers, like at the top end of the game, saying Van Dijk said he was one of the best players he ever played with. And he really was. I remember when he came into the squad, I was a few years younger than him. And he was, I think it was about 8-9 years younger than, maybe more. But he was, he came in straight away, and I thought, you couldn't get the ball off him. He did not give the ball away. Devo did not give the ball away. And how he pressed, I'd never seen anybody press like it in all my life, and he never got the reputation for somebody that could press and win the ball back. But when you took a touch, he had the ball off you. Technically, his vision, even now I see a pass he made on Saturday for Rangers' first goal. He is top class, unassuming, gets on with things, very, very quiet, keeps himself to himself. But he's broke the all-time Northern Ireland cap record. He's a living legend.
He has.
Legend. Yeah.
What?
He's
more than Pat Jennings.
Yeah, more than I think he's broke Pat's. I think he's broke Pat's now, as well. And I think he's
really.
He broke it there recently in one of the games. So he's an absolute legend for Northern Ireland. So quiet, goes about his job. He's a manager's dream. When we were in the Euros, he was the easiest person to manage. It's so easy, and sometimes people think the higher you go up, the egos get bigger. They do, but Devo didn't have an ego. Just no ego whatsoever. Easy maintenance. Wanted to train every day. First out, last in, wanted to train. He didn't believe in days off. He worked under Pochettino. and they didn't have days off. There was no this first day and second day recovery where that is now with all the modern players. They always wanted to train, and he was just a dream to work with as a coach and as a player. You know, yeah, absolute dream.
Yeah, nice. And who's your other central midfielder then?
I had to put Nico in. I had to put my mate in. Yeah, I had to put Nico in. If you're on the phone, he never put me in. I noticed he never put me in. Harry told me that he never put me in, so I'm thinking about retracting that, to be honest with you. But no, he was. Nico was probably my favourite person to play with. He kick his own granny. He would honestly, he was a booking away from a red card every single game. I think me and Nico had a competition to see who could get booked first. There was like records being broke for who could get the bookings first. But he didn't get the credit for how good a footballer he was, Nico. Nico was,
no, he
had knee problems as well, Nico. And the one thing that stopped Nico playing right at the very top level was probably his mobility. But I mean, technically, both feet, receiving skills, breaking up play, he was brilliant. I don't think he had the credit he deserved. And I hope Luton fans remember in the first time he was there. The second time, I didn't really see him, to be honest. And I know that they were playing at lower levels at that stage, but he was brilliant. Absolute dream to play with. Done all my running, done all my tackling, done all my heading, and literally just shouted at me for 90 minutes because I didn't keep my shape. It's mad now that I'm the one managing and screaming at people now to keep their shape and discipline, where I just ran where I wanted. And as I say, him and Paul Underwood in that team, they were the discipline of the team, and they allowed me and Berko to go and express ourselves and create chances and press when we wanted to and just be free. But he was that anchor man that sat there, scored goals, brilliant penalty taker as well, brilliant delivery from set plays, really, really technical player, and a great boy. Mad, mental, but really good boy. Really, really good boy.
Just jumping on there, what you just said about like Nico being the one who did all the dirty work and stuff, and you just run everywhere and stuff. So when did you start thinking about going into management, and then you started thinking about these things, what players were doing for you? And when was the first time you thought, you know what, I'm thinking like a manager now, I'm thinking like a coach? Or I mean, was that before then of your playing days, or was it?
No. I'd love to say that that's what I set out to do. I love to tell lies and say I didn't. I always wanted to go and live in America, as you know, Marv. I always wanted to go and live in America. My way into America was coaching. So because I had been a full international with Northern Ireland, I got offered to go on that fast track coaching course through your B license and your A license. And so when that came about, John Carver was at the club at that stage. So it was Kevin Blackwell and John Carver. And John was a brilliant coach, somebody I still stay in touch with now. And it's funny, one of my players, Declan Gallagher, went with the Scotland squad. And John Carver is the assistant manager now of Scotland. And he said straight away, he went, now I know where you got all your drills from. So, I stole a lot of ideas off John. He was the one that probably got me really, really interested in it. And then, Marvin was coaching at the youth team at that stage, and sort of started trying to pick Marvin's brains as well and get into it then. But it was for my own selfish reasons. I wanted to go to America. I wanted to move to America. And then I got offered a job through the IFA, and I was struggling with my injuries at the same time. And at the time, I went the long way about coaching. I didn't get a job straight away. Mick had offered me the Luton Reserve job at that stage, and I didn't take it. I'd just taken the job in Northern Ireland, and it's funny how things work out. Had I not went that way, I don't think I'd have been as good a coach or manager, because I learned every single age group, from 12s to 16s, the girls, the PowerPoint presentations, the managing in an association, the dealing with chief executives. And in Northern Ireland at that stage, me and Michael O'Neill were just trying to build the association up from scratch. There was nothing in place. And it was a brilliant learning experience. Obviously, it culminated in getting to Euro 2016, and Michael moved me up the age groups, and I'll be forever grateful for him giving me them opportunities. But it's sort of, I just kept going up the ladder, and quite unintentionally and unassuming. I didn't intend to go where I was going. And, even the Motherwell job, I was away in Iceland with Stephen Craigan, who was a Motherwell legend, and he was my under 17 assistant manager. And I got a phone call from Ian Barraclough to say, would you want to come over? I've seen you coach and was impressed with you coaching and that. So I probably would have said no, only Stephen Craigan was there, and he pushed me into it. So sometimes there's fate when you end up where you're meant to be. But
you didn't know Ian Barraclough at all?
I'd never met him before. He came to watch one session at, he was friendly with Tommy Johnson. So I'd brought Tommy in. I'd met Tommy in coaching courses, and Tommy had come in as my assistant with the under-21s with Northern Ireland. because he was based in England, so we needed somebody based in England as well. And he was Ian
Not
Barraclough's
Tommy Johnson, not Tommy Johnson, the striker, or that
yeah,
Derby.
Tommy, yeah,
Oh,
Derby, not
okay.
County, Celtic.
Yeah.
So Tommy and Barra knew each other, and he came to watch a session, and from that session, he deemed that I was okay at what I'd done, so and offered me the job. So and I've been here ever since, or a brief spell at Oldham. So,
Which one do you prefer, managing wise? The international side of things, or the constant day-to-day club coaching?
they're different. There's advantages to both. The international one is difficult because you only have a certain amount of time. You know, I spoke to Steve Clark about this, and obviously I was involved heavily with Michael O'Neill in Northern Ireland as well. You've only a certain amount of time to implement what you're trying to do, and you've got people coming in from all different clubs that have different ideas and they're told different things, and you have to get one way of playing, and everyone has to buy into that. And what we created with Northern Ireland was a club sort of thing, you know, and that's the thing that's missing in a lot of international groups is you've got all different ideas. We created a club identity. It was basic, you know, we went quite long, quite early. We played diagonal balls. We found a system that worked, and everybody bought into it. And again, I go back to that we bought into it because Michael's a top class manager as well. But the players were so humble. They wanted to learn and they wanted to be part of something. And you know, we went from a country that were 100th in the world to qualifying for the Euros and getting to the last 16. You know, so that's the bit in that. Plus, you get a lot of downtime. You get a lot of time. You get a lot more family time. You get a lot of. You can go on a lot more holidays. Club football is tough. And I think Michael's finding that it's every day, every single day, 24 hours a day. It takes its toll in things. It takes its toll, you know, sacrifice-wise. You know, I've sacrificed my family at times and lots of other things you have to because it dominates your whole life. Where international, you can get away from it a little bit, but club football's 24 hours a day. You're responsible for everything. You win on a Saturday, it's relief. You lose on a Saturday, and your whole week's ruined. You know, so it's tough. Club management's tough, but it's something we enjoy doing.
No, it would be. Who's the other central midfielder then, next to Steve?
So no,
you said Nico. You said Nico. I didn't. Sorry, you said Nico. Sorry, my fault.
I only need two. I don't need a third one in there. Nick Barnby will drop in there as well. He'll go
sorry,
in there.
Sorry, I lost track. It's so I was listening so in depth to that. It was awesome to listen to. So strikers, who have we gone for? You mentioned quite a few so far, and you can pick yourself.
No, you're joking. I'd never put me in that team. No way. To be fair, they're not the right combination. I've never played the both of them together, but they're both brilliant lads. I used to room with Stevie Howard, and Steve Fletcher from Bournemouth is my best man at my wedding. And you know, great lad, one of the funniest boys I've ever met. The two of them together would be a handful. That's why I had to have Keith Gillespie in to put balls into the box. But you know, so big Stevie, obviously Luton fans know him well. I remember lying in bed with Stevie, but lying on separate beds with Stevie. You know, we used to room together all the time, and used to say to him, "We only need one move. You only need one move to be a millionaire." Well, Stevie went on about 6 weeks later, got £1 million move, and then another move, and then another move, and I just retired and started coaching, and I'm skint, and he's a millionaire. So he got it right, and I got it badly wrong. But as a player, Harry was a dream to play with. For somebody like me who gambled all the time off the balls off the front man, he was brilliant to play with, absolutely brilliant. And you know, he set so many chances up for the team. He was pivotal to everything that team done. You know, take him out of the team, but he was actually technically better than people give him credit. We used to say to him he was the big honey monster and a big head and a stick. But you know, the levels he's gone to play at proved that he was technically very good as well. You know, and Stevie's a mate of mine now. He still stay in touch, and he's been very successful in the property business and all as well. And you know, somebody I still speak to on a regular basis. He comes up to Motherwell and sees me and tries to get me to sign players every now and again when he pretends he's an agent. But in that Luton team, there was me, him, Nico, and we Burko, and we travelled in the car together to train him. We travelled in and out. We all lived in Milton Keynes, but Burko didn't. But we lived in Milton Keynes, Thorpe, and we travelled in together. And the banter and the crack in the car was, you know, that's what you miss as a manager. You don't get that. Everybody hates you. You know, everybody in the club hates you, bar maybe the 10 or 11 boys that you've picked to start, and everybody else despises you. Their girlfriends hate you, their mums hate you, and the banter going in. I walk in the changing room now and everyone stops speaking. It's there it is, so and so. Where that's what you miss, and that dressing room was I mean, some of the things the boys got up to, you could never say on a podcast in that dressing room, but the team spirit and banter. Harry was right in amongst it. Just sat and laughed at everything. He just sat in the corner giggling to himself. So, but as a player, definitely he was a huge part of what we done to get promoted.
Who would you rather? Who did you rather play with? Obviously, setting things up in that particularly picking out that Luton team you're talking about. Rowan Vine or Steve Howie? Who was better for the passes you played? Because they were different players.
For me, to play with Harry, and in reality, I probably should have put Viney with him, because Viney was excellent that season. He was class, and then you've got Warren Feeney who was completely different, worked his socks off, gave a great platform to the team, didn't quite score the goals that we know he could do, and then he got a really good move to Cardiff. But for me, Harry was pivotal. If you took Harry out of the team, you'd miss him more than we took Viney's goals out of the team, because Harry just gave Viney the platform to play. He gave me the platform to run. The same set plays. You got him and Coyne that you're hitting. I don't think the team could have done without Harry. I don't think we got promoted without him. I thought him and Nico were pivotal to what we done. Viney was excellent. Viney's a hard one to leave out. And there's some other players that I played with at Preston. John Mackin, who was top class at times as well. And
ended up at Man City. He was a great player.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And the year we got up, he was Dave Healy, who's a Northern Ireland legend, absolute legend. Yep. Another great friend of mine, and played in the same youth teams, Lisburn Youth together, and all from growing up. So really and truly, the little and large combination probably should have been Viney and Stevie, or Stevie and Healy, or even John Mackin. But I just couldn't leave Big Fletch out. I had to put him in. I'm putting him in.
That's why it's your best 11, Robbo.
I'm putting him in more than his talent, because I always say to him, he never left Bournemouth because he was scared to leave Bournemouth, because he's got a stand built after him now as well. He walks about Bournemouth like he's the king. He is the king of Bournemouth. And everybody I take up where they come from, we had a boy Michael and Jolie on loan, and boys that have been at Bournemouth always say to them, Big Jordan Archer, who's with us at the minute, big goalkeeper, how's Big Fletch? And everyone bursts out laughing, because he's just a character. He's a great lad, and obviously I was very friendly with him. He was my best man, and his wife Lynn as well, and their kids, so we had some brilliant times down at Bournemouth. We were 18, 19. We were down to the beach every day after training. We thought we'd made it. We're earning 300 quid a week and thought we'd cracked it. We're running about in our white suits and what have you, the curtains and all that kind of stuff, straightening our hair, and embarrassing to look back on, but good times, good crack. And I mean, but Fletch was, again, he's too similar to Stevie to have him in the team, but I couldn't take him out. He was the same. Without him, I scored 69 goals at Bournemouth, and I would say Fletch probably set up at least half of them. We played it up to him. He set things. He was that big. He chested things down. He wasn't the most mobile of boys. He had knee problems as well, but so effective. So effective. So a mix of a team. Probably not the right blend. If I was the manager, it certainly wouldn't be my right blend in there, but some very, very good footballers.
You say he wasn't the most mobile, Fletch, but he used to score all the time. He used to be, if he was playing in that team, you'd see Bournemouth 1, so-and-so nil. Fletcher. He scored a good few goals, didn't he, for playing for them?
Are you sure that wasn't Carl Fletcher? That might have been Carl.
Carl Fletcher's the midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah.
The midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, Carl's had a recruitment now as well at Bournemouth. No, he chipped in.
No, Fletcher, he was a handful.
He was
I put against him a good few times.
You wouldn't have put him in hard. You wouldn't have kicked him into the side of the Hordens, would you?
No, because he's too fat. I wouldn't get him off the ground. He's too fat.
He wouldn't have run far enough out that way. He wouldn't have been out that wide in the pitch anyway to kick him. He never left the centre of the pitch. He was a handful. I mean, the two of them up front would be a handful. By the way, Harry needed a kick in the ass as well, because I remember screaming at him at times, "Come on, big man, you've not won a header. How have you not won that?" And he used to tell me he was going to rip my head off at half time and things. But he won every header after that. So I was the little one shouting and screaming in the background, being gubby.
It worked.
Him and Nico was trying to grab me and pin me up, and Harry was going to kill me, but it worked. So he won every header. We were 1-0 up, and everyone was happy. So yeah,
that's fantastic. So of those three you mentioned there, in terms of the chaos that they caused in the dressing rooms, Nico came on and told us a million stories, most of which involved fireworks. So, so would you say you were more the giggler on the outside, or were you well and truly involved in this yourself as well?
I don't know. I was quite miserable, Marv, wasn't I? I was like moody.
I would say, I'd say Robbo's quite smart. So this is Rob. Robbo's very smart, right? So Robbo would sort of just throw in the odd little what about that, Stephen? Should we do that? And he wouldn't actually take part in doing it. So he would just load the gun. Let's say load the gun. Here you go, Nico, and then off you go, and they will go and fire it, and he'd be giggling in a way in the background, laughing, thinking, you're crazy. But it was Robbo's idea. It all comes from Robbo.
I never had a chance to be crazy there. When you put Saul Davis into that.
True.
So our Harry tells me the story as well. So our Harry says, I used to bring Harry in the train and that. And Saul used to do things that an 8 and 9-year-old boy shouldn't see. And he's got him upside down, dipping him in the bin and just things he shouldn't say. So I didn't have a chance. You've got Nico walking around the dressing room doing things, Marlon being mental and mad and crazy. But yeah, we had some good characters in the team. Some really, really good characters. Harry was the same. Harry used to just sit in the corner and laugh. He just used to giggle and we just let Nico get on with it. He'd just get on with it. Thorpe was a character as well. So there was
quite a few characters. There was
plenty of stories about Thorpe as well, but I won't say them ones either. So because we all come in the cars together, me, Thorpe, and Nico. We used to drive in from Milton Keynes together through Woburn to miss the traffic, and the banter was good. Good times that you won't forget.
No, definitely. I'm surprised. One name I'm going to throw in there. Did you play with Carlos Edwards?
Do you know what? I said him last night. I said Carlos last night. Carlos was class. He was.
You're talking about putting the wing in, putting the ball in.
Yeah,
and Carlos could play left or right.
It was him, or it was. That's why Burko had no chance, did he? Really, when we look at it, I love you about it. You have no chance of being in this team. Carlos Edwards was class. He was. Carlos could do anything. He had rubber legs. When he had that there drop of his shoulder. Really, really good player. Funny, he was the one that I mentioned because I was trying to say to my partner Robin about it, and I don't even think she thinks I played football. So I was trying to get my goal against Liverpool up, and I think Carlos played. And it was Harry said, yeah, Carlos Edwards, I think, crossed the ball. So, yeah, Carlos was top class, top player. Didn't he move to Sunderland? Did he go to Sunderland?
Yeah, Sunderland, then Ipswich.
Yeah.
And he played in the World Cup in 2006.
Yeah, so...
He played for Trinidad.
He's still playing now, Nico says. He's still playing now.
Don't realise how many good players
come out.
And I've had the pleasure of coaching a lot of really, really good players as well. So I've been very lucky. You don't realise until you sit down and do something like this. I said to Marv last night, I haven't looked at it yet because I was too busy getting over a 3-0 defeat on Saturday and trying to sign players and sack players and do things as you do as a manager. So I only sat and thought about it really last night, and all the players start coming back and the memories start coming back. So yeah, some boys that are not in that starting 11 that probably would maybe squeeze into it on another day.
Can I ask you two about? Can I ask you two boys about a player who Luton fans remember fondly, but he never seems to get a mention? Enoch Shawomni.
Big Enoch.
Whatever happened to Enoch?
You were still there, Marv, weren't you? With Enoch.
Yeah, I was on the coaching side, but you played with. I mean, I think I remember Enoch coming in from that. Sorry.
I don't know where did he come in from?
Enoch. It came in from, there was this team, I think, in London who had an academy of some sort, and they came down and played in a game. Remember, in the game against, I don't know if it's reserves or the first team at Electra, or where it was. Yeah, and Enoch stood out by a mile, and he was it was very quick, fast, athletic, and you know what Steenie was like, whoa, look at him. He's got some wheels, isn't he? Look, and sort of thing. And he stood out, but he was very raw. And so I think they said, I think they were quite pushy and said, do you like any of our players, sort of thing. And I think Newley and Stevie said, we quite like him there. What's the story with him? And then it was a case where I think Enoch came down for another week on his own. And he did. I mean, I think he was there for a couple of weeks, did quite really, really well. I think he ended up getting a deal, but then... He scored a few goals, didn't he? Did he go to Leeds? Went to Leeds, didn't he?
A big handful. I don't think he probably went on to fulfill what he had attribute-wise. He was a big boy. He was quick. He was strong. And he could score goals. And he never really quite went on and done probably what he thought he could have done in the game. Sometimes when the boys miss out early on, they maybe don't get that their base to play. But Yeah, I lost track of it. To be honest, I didn't know where he went after Luton. I know that he played, but he was a handful. He scored goals as well, and I think he ended up being a sub a lot of times when we were there. But breaking
He
into
played for
that,
Nigeria. Did he play for Nigeria?
Yeah.
Like I think he played for his country.
Well, so, you can't knock him. Then I'm saying he didn't go on and do things, but he probably got more caps than I did. So that's which isn't difficult, to be honest.
So I digressed. It was just a random question. I wasn't sure if you boys how much do you guys keep in touch, and obviously being in management, Steve, how do you find that balance of the relationships and keeping in touch with old players and things like that? How do you find time for that, and how do you find that type of thing?
Marv, I'll tell you.
Before he answers that, I can answer this for you, Andrew. He's the worst ever communicator in the whole world. Honestly, he's ridiculous. And that's me putting it mildly.
I go in the club at 7:45 in the morning, 7:30, 7:45. I talk all day. I have meetings all day. I have staff meetings. I have Zoom meetings. I have meetings with the chief exec. I have players moaning at me. I go and then put a session on. I then go and do analysis there. Every as a manager, and what you find is when I was assistant manager, I thought I worked really hard and I thought I knew everything. And I was doing so much around the club. When you become a manager, everyone wants a piece of you. And the players only want to speak to the manager. All the staff want their own little piece of the pie. They all want their recognition. Everybody wants recognition from the manager. So it is difficult, and you give everybody, and I try and treat everybody the way I want to be treated. And you give that much time to people. By the time you walk through the door, you go, oh, and I just can't be bothered speaking to them. And Marv sometimes WhatsApp me and phones me, and I'm like, and to be honest, staying in touch with people, I'm rubbish at the best of times. And probably the only two people in football I keep in touch with would be Marv and Marlon Beresford. And I've got one other best mate who I grew up with, Johnny Houston, who's probably the only person I keep in touch with on a regular basis. But when you see the lads, you catch up with them. Nico, I'll speak to you because Nico's an agent now, and we'll catch up, and you'll hear from Thorpe every now and again, little Burko, Howard, big Stevie Howard. But staying in touch is difficult. It is difficult because your world just gets dominated by football. It really does, and it drains the life out of you at times. And sometimes you do. Everybody else around you suffers for it because you're moody so and so and tired all the time. But I've learned as the more I've managed that you have to, me and partner go out cycling, or used to, but I think she might have retired now, to be honest with you. She's claiming she's retired for the winter. But you have to dedicate time to get away from it. You have to go. I go to the gym every morning still, just to try and get my head right for 45 minutes and ready, set to go. So when he's ringing me, I'm in the gym. That's the problem. The time difference, that's my excuse why I don't take his calls all the time.
Awesome. So management, you're in managing right now. Who's your manager you gone for? Who do you think would manage this group? I know you mentioned the fridge earlier. Is it the fridge or?
No, it's not Joe. Joe was the most ruthless manager ever, but funny. So funny. If it wasn't you he was going for, I mean, some of the things Joe said to the boys, I couldn't even put on here.
We've raised it. We've mentioned it on here with guys Boise. Remember Boise?
Oh, I mean, he actually told me he was going to take me off once if I showed for the ball off Boise. Yeah, he was like, don't you dare show for the ball off, or I'm going to take you off the pitch. You're thinking, Boise's going on to play in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Well, he was.
Won the FA Cup.
He's won the FA Cup. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember him taking me and Thorpe on. I'll tell the one about. So he put me on at Cardiff. Me and Thorpe. He dropped me in Thorpe. Can I swear on here? Am I okay to swear?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. So he put me on. I mean, he signed me and Thorpe. Me and Thorpe were the big signings that season. He brought Thorpe in. He brought me in, and he dropped us after about 2 games. And Thorpe. Me and Thorpe went, okay, we're giving up. We're not playing. That's it. But he put me and him on with 10 minutes to go against Cardiff away. And I went through 1-on-1 and missed an absolute sitter. I tried to chip the goalkeeper. I was 1-on-1. So I came in and I was sitting in the corner. He comes in and he says to me, seriously, he went, I could have put that in with my cock, Mickey. He says it to Mick Arthur. And I just looked at him and he just looked at me and shook his head and he went, you're shit. Yeah, that was it. And absolutely slaughtered me. With Joe, there was no in between. His first team talk that I ever went into, he said, see if I could replace every single one of you. This was before the game. He said, I'd replace every single one of you. And we were like, I'd never heard of him before. All the rest of the boys started laughing, thinking, that's Joe for you. But Joe was a character. Joe was, it was good fun. If it wasn't you on the end of it, it was good fun. But in terms of management, I've been very, very privileged. I've worked with all the international managers, Brian Hamilton, Nigel Worthington, Michael O'Neill. In my own coaching capacity, would have been the best manager I've seen work in detail. Unbelievable. As a player, Mel Machin made me feel like I was the best player in the world. He had a man management skills. Him, Danny Wilson at Bristol City, and I've mentioned David Moyes already. Tactically, Moyes was top class and was going on to prove that. But I think man management wise, I think Mike Newell with that team, and at the time, he used to moan about things, and actually you look back as a manager now, and a lot of things made sense. We had players who could run the football club, and he managed it brilliantly. We had big characters with big voices, and if you stood up to them too often, it wouldn't have worked. He allowed us to be disciplined and discipline ourselves, and he allowed us to express ourselves. Newley was one of those that he pretended he wasn't into tactics, and it's always 4-4-2, but actually he was very, very bright, and very bright football wise. Would hate me saying that because he doesn't like any kind of credit, but he was a very, very good manager. And as a man manager, he would be the best. He would be the best. As tactically, and I had Sean O'Driscoll work with me for a short period of time, and I've thrown in about 100 managers. Sean was verging on genius. When you speak to Sean, he's so controversial. He challenged me all the time as a manager, challenged my thought process all the time. But I mean, probably out of all of them, I would say David Moyes tactically was top notch. Michael O'Neill, as when I work with anybody, I probably learned more from as the overall package. And as a man manager, Mike Newell was an excellent man and manager. As I say, I've never seen a manager.
Who are you choosing? Get off the fence, Robbo. Who are you choosing as your manager? Right?
You just stayed and played for one club. I was adventurous. I went out and about and seen everybody else.
I had no choice. No one wanted to sign me or buy me, right?
I was just released from Spurs. I had no choice. I'm going for Newley.
Who are you choosing?
Yeah, I'm going for
Newley.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt Newley. And that's because I've got two more questions for you, and I think one of them's going to come from what you might say from this next question, like your most memorable Luton game and why.
Probably you want me to say the Liverpool game, don't you?
No, I want you to say what you feel. But my question is from that game, actually. But whatever game you say, what your most memorable game and why? I was just interested.
I suppose it was, the Liverpool game. I mean, I can't forget that. Scored. I've got a picture on my wall of Carragher on the floor and Stephen Gerrard with his hands on his head like that. And my best mate was in the stand, Houston. So my celebration afterwards, I was going to get on top of my head. Don't ask me why. He had asked me to do this before the game. So it was a strange celebration, but he thinks it was really funny. So it keeps him happy. So we've done that. Yeah, I mean, there's not much happened in that game. It probably would be the most memorable game for me for Luton. Definitely the most memorable Luton game because you've got Marlon getting hit from the halfway line, you've got penalties, you've got Steve Gerrard bending one in, Alonso scoring, I'd say, from the halfway line. I got taken off with 2 minutes to go with a torn my knee ligaments. Nobody even remembers that because that's how effective I was on the pitch. I was off the pitch. So it was eventful anyway, that one.
And my second part of that question, it doesn't matter if it wasn't going to be that game, but now as a manager and as a coach, whether do you think? I mean, I didn't even ask Newley this question actually. Do you think what do you think could be different to win that game? Why do we lose that game? Why do you think we lost that game? We had
a mentality, and it's quite similar to Motherwell. We've got a mentality where we always attack, and you've got players in the team that are very attack-minded, very forward-thinking, and we were 3-1 up, weren't we? Was it 3-1? 3-1 up.
Half-time was, or just after half-time. Yeah.
In hindsight, as a manager, what I would have done, and that's easy. Hindsight's easy, isn't it? I would have stepped back a little bit more. We kept attacking. We just kept going for it, and we had the players to do it, and we were a very forward-thinking team. If we'd have set back and just tried to defend from deep and hit them on the counter-attack with Viney's pace and, maybe, who knows? But it wouldn't have been as good a game, would it? Do you know what I mean? If we'd have gone through, it'd be knocked out
True.
anyway, and nobody would have remembered it. So I seen it on. It was up on FA Cup Classics. It's as a manager, and I've done it myself here. When you go and you challenge Celtic and Rangers, and ultimately they've got players that are worth 10 million on the pitch, and we've got boys who are paying £300. It's you still think that you can go and win, and I'd rather be a manager that's positive thinking. I'd go with Newley. I remember shouting over at Steenie at the time, "Shall we sit?" And he just said, "You shut up and just get on with it." Steenie was like, there was no negotiating with Steenie. You just do what you're told. So we just kept running forward. And as I say, we got caught out. We got caught out, but we got caught out.
And I think, like you said, hindsight's a great thing. I mean, I'm not at the levels of where you are, but obviously, that I coach over in the America. I don't think I could go and set up a game if it was like a final or whatever, and we're 3-1 up and we're playing against a better team or supposedly much better team than ourselves, and sit in. Because if we ended up losing, I'll be more angry at myself for not sticking to my methods of attack. Maybe the last 5-10 minutes, I might say, well, look, sit in now, but no, not at half time. I don't think you could turn around. And me personally, I'd be like, nah, I wouldn't enjoy the win. That's stupid. You would enjoy because you're beating Liverpool, I suppose. But I just know what you mean. I couldn't. In hindsight, a great thing. I couldn't sit in. If my tactics would have been like exactly the same, I think.
I don't think we had the players to sit in anyway. We're all so attack minded, and we're buzzing with confidence. It was a great time to get them. I think Benitez was he under a wee bit of pressure at the time?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
It was a great time to get them, and 3-1 up, we thought we were invincible. Me and Nico were just empty in the middle. I'd be having a heart attack as a manager, and now Nico and me were just bombing forward, doing what we wanted to do. I know I'd be like, just sit in there, protect, So as you say, hindsight's a great thing, and it probably wouldn't have been the game that it was. And Luton have had a lot of good memories since that game as well. But I would imagine in most Luton fans, it would probably still be up there on one of the better games they've experienced over time.
Oh, definitely. And and it's interesting you say that, because when we spoke to Nico, he said that was the only game he's ever left that he's lost, and he had a smile on his face. The only game ever.
It was that I would have had a smile on my face, but I left on crutches, unfortunately, and I would have been smiling. It was just that it had absolutely everything, and it was. When you look back now, anybody says to me that even remember that I still played, that's what they say to me. I used to actually play. He actually scored a goal, So it's the one that everybody will talk to me about, and I suppose I got to live off. I still got Stephen.
Great goal, by the way. Great goal, by the way. You let it run across your body, didn't you? And you hit it.
We touch around the corner. No sense of gravity.
Okay, that's right. Yes,
you know what I mean? That's Ryan Carragher. He won't be talking about that on Monday Night Football, will he, tonight? No, it's good memories, and I've got Gerard's shirt as well. I've got Stephen Gerrard's shirt up on my wall. Actually, Charlie's got it. He's got it up on his wall. So he's got my Luton shirt and Stephen Gerrard's shirt. So certainly good memories. And now,
have you ever raised that with him?
Well, I didn't. I was a wee bit embarrassed too. But when we played them recently, when you were allowed to go in and meet managers, that was before COVID. We went into the office, and I'm not sure Stevie even remembers that. I can't imagine that I'm remembering the goal I scored against him after what he's achieved. So I thought it was best maybe not to say anything. I just kept quiet.
He must have remembered the Luton game, surely.
He would do, because Alonso's goal.
I'm not sure. See, the problem was I think I might have got sent to the stand that day. As manager, I think I got sent off. So I had my tail between my legs. So I don't think I was saying too much. And Charlie was in the room as well. And he was awestruck. Stephen Gerrard was in, so he was completely awestruck. So didn't think it was the right time to say to him. So, no.
Out of interest, if you don't mind me asking, you're obviously Motherwell coach now. Is there that game, quite often that Luton game sticks in your mind. Do you think as a Motherwell fan, there are Motherwell fans throughout kind of in your tenure that would have a game that they think of in the same light? Obviously, maybe different outcome or whatever it was, that they look to and go, that was the game I remember. As kind of kids growing up or fans. Do you think there's anybody, Motherwell fans, that'd be like that?
Which one? I'm getting. I forget. I think. Well, since I've been, there's obviously before I come, there'll be plenty of memories. There's probably 3 stick in my mind. We beat Rangers 6-2, I think it was, in the playoff to stay up, and that was massive because everybody had wrote us off. Me and Barclough's manager, I was assistant manager. At my time as manager, we beat Aberdeen in the semi-final to get to the Scottish Cup final. Yeah. And we beat them 3-0 in the semi-final. And we were the underdogs, we shouldn't have been there. That, and we beat Rangers 2-0 in the semi-final to get to the next final. So Hampden was packed with our end of Hampden was full. The flags were up, the celebrations afterwards, and as a manager, that's very, very difficult to replicate. Obviously, if we'd have went one more and won the thing, then I can't imagine how good it would have been. We didn't, and we had no right to. We had no right to be in the cup finals with the size of the club. We had no right to beat Celtic in the final. But I would say if you ask people now, that would be the memory. The Aberdeen game, we were so convincing against a side with such a much bigger budget. All the press had wrote us off, and the same with the other semi-final against Rangers. We beat them 2-0. Louis Maltz, I remember because I actually got sent off again. I've calmed down since then. Okay, that was 4 or 5 years ago. I got me and Pedro Casino were having a row. We were winning 1-0, so I got sent to the stand, and I can remember some video footage of me in the stand when Louis Malt's goal was going in. So he lobs the goalkeeper from about 30 yards. And I mean, the celebrations are absolutely brilliant. All the fans are going wild. I'm in the stand going wild. And that was brilliant. That was brilliant. So if I'm a fan, you're not forgetting that. You're remembering that. For me as a manager, the biggest one for me, and people always go, really? When I took over the job, we were second bottom. And I knew people were under pressure for the jobs. Obviously, I was under pressure. But people at the club, relegation's horrible. And there was going to be 30, 40 staff lose their job. And we were second bottom of the league. We'd conceded 30 goals. And we stayed up. In the last game of the season, the second last game of the season against Kilmarnock, we won 3-1. And that was, for me, the biggest relief. That's the game I always remember because, I might not have stayed as manager. If I hadn't kept them up, I might have been sacked. And that then led to the next season, 2 cup finals, finishing third and, getting into Europe, all that kind of stuff. So that was massive for me. But as a football club, the pressure I felt for those other people to keep them in jobs, the repercussions of that relegation would have been catastrophic for the football club in terms of finances. So that's what I remember. But I would suggest Motherwell fans would probably remember the Aberdeen semi-final as their one, yeah.
Awesome. They probably will do. They'll probably be messaging right now with their memories and the best games.
Hopefully. Is there any Motherwell fans in America? There must be a couple.
Yeah. Me.
Yeah.
Told you.
Yeah, you are.
Because of your mum.
Me.
Yeah. Did you take a session, Marv? Did you put a session on for us?
No, I was nowhere near that. I was taking down your sessions that you were doing, and I still do them. I tell you what I do now. The one you showed? Yeah, you told me the 7-4-2, the running one, where you do 20 yards, 40 yards, and 80 yards.
Yeah.
And they do the
8-4-2. Yeah,
it's 8-4-2.
8-4. You've been letting them off?
I've been letting them off. Is it really 8-4-2? You're lying.
Yeah. Sorry, girls. That's it. The girls in your team are going to kill me.
Do you know what name is it? Let me just say something to you now, because I thought
they keep getting in on time, yeah.
No. But I thought to me, why? It's weird. Why has he told me 7-4-2 when it's like 2, 4? It's all even. Why is it not 8? I'm thinking. But I said, okay, it's Robbo's drill. Just keep it at 7. So I was thinking, I thought that way. Why the hell would it be 7-4-2 when it's like 2-4?
You'll cover all the same distance. That's what it is.
Yeah. So now, sorry, girls. And girls have had it now. They're doing that this week. 8-4, so it's 8-4-2. Yeah. So no, I didn't take a session, but I enjoy obviously watching your sessions because, like I said, I mean, you're a very good coach, and you spoke about Newley obviously being the manager, and you spoke about Newley, his management skills. I didn't see. Not that you should. I didn't see you being, because Newley, we both know, was very he believed his thoughts were like a manager's a manager, a coach is a coach, and Newley was the one who came into the dressing room on the weekend and the Saturday, and you heard his voice, and Steenie was the one who was doing all the work. And Newley did come up, to be fair to him, didn't he? During the week, he just walked around, wasn't he, or whatever. You're not. I mean, when I came up to Mother, you're not that sort of manager. You was more of a hands-on manager. Do you believe there's some truth to what Newley says about a manager being a manager, and just hearing his voice and not getting used to his voice? That was the point of him not being in the training sessions each day.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it was quite powerful. It was quite powerful doing that. I think things have sort of moved on and evolved a little bit as well. I think now a lot of the managers do the coaching. I didn't trust anybody to do the coaching at the start, so I've done absolutely everything. But I've got a brilliant coaching staff now. Keith Lasley, my assistant manager, and Maurice Ross are top coaches. So I've learned to designate a bit more. So it isn't always my voice, and I would coach a lot on the Thursday, Friday before the game. So a lot of the tactical stuff. I think it's important that the manager does the tactics. I think it's important that the manager's voice is the one that's leading the tactics, and the rest of the stuff around it, which is generic, entertainment players, really. I'm a believer that players have to enjoy training, they have to enjoy football. So if it's purely technical all the time, you lose them. So I try and buy players in. We buy them in with small-sided games, or the possessions, or the finishing, the stuff that they really enjoy, and then they buy them back out again. I say, give me your half hour of your time now. This is when we're coaching. I would take a lot of that stuff, and that's what interests me, the technical side of it. But I think if it's constant tactics, you lose the players. And the opposite, if there's no tactics and no organisation, then you end up getting found out. I think that's a short-term solution. So we've got a good mix of it. I believe that the manager has to coach the tactics. He has to be the one that delivers it. And I think you'll find now, the top managers, you've got Iolas and people that got there right in the middle of the training pitch. I've gone to, through the LMA, I've been able to go and watch and learn different things, go across the world watching things when I was with Northern Ireland. And, people are hands-on. Michael only let me do practically everything. Throughout the Euros, maybe 80%, 90% of sessions. But when it came to the final bits and the team shape and the set plays and all them final bits, that's when you get the players' attention. So there's definitely a method in Newley's madness, because when the manager speaks, you're listening. If you hear his voice every single minute, then it becomes a bit diluted. And Mick Harford used to say that to me as well. When Mick didn't say much, but when Mick spoke, you listened, because it was, he got your attention. But I think modern management now is a lot of the management side of it's getting taken away. It's more, you're a head coach. A lot of times the setup of football clubs are you're a head coach. At Motherwell, that's not the case. I'm lucky that I run the club from top to bottom. I have a very good relationship with the chief executive, the chairman, Jim McMahon's top class with me. But that's rare. I decide everything that happens. I decide who comes, who goes. I get given a budget, and it's not a great budget, but they give me everything they possibly can. And they never interfere. They never question who I sign, why I sign, and why I've got rid of him. And I'm probably the old school, and there's not many left that allow you to do that. I think now football's moved where it's more you've got that structure above you, and you've got a head coach. And I mean, I'm comfortable in both roles. I enjoy coaching. The day-to-day stuff I let others do, and the tactical side I do. So the analysis side of things huge now. We didn't do a lot of analysis at Luton. Newly believed in the sort of old Liverpool style. We played small-sided games. We believed that we were better than them. We had so much belief in the players, and we played like that as well. So I don't think there's ever one right or wrong way to do it. I'd never criticize any manager ever, because there's no right and wrong way to do it. There's no right style. You play to your player's strength. If you've got 2 6'6" centre forwards, why play football? Get the ball into the box as often as you can. If you've got Xavi and Iniesta in midfield, you've got to play out from the back. If you've got Rio Ferdinand driving out, you play through the third. So I believe in you play with what you're given, and then when you get yourself in a position, you try and recruit that way. And that's how I've tried to evolve Motherwell into a team that plays very good football. At the start, I didn't have that. I had big, strong boys, and it wasn't loads of coaching. It was a lot of team spirit, similar to Luton. Now, we play some really, really good football. We make mistakes because we play too much. You can't get the characters like we used to do to take control of the game and go and win that header and tackle, throw their body line. They don't exist, I don't think, anymore. I think academies have created a different creature. So you have to evolve with that. You have to constantly keep evolving and reinventing yourself in football. And that's, what we've tried to do.
Excellent. So we always like to give people an opportunity to say a message to fans or of clubs they've played for or managed. Is there anything you want to say to anybody out there who maybe doesn't hear too much from you from this side of perspective? Obviously, I hear a lot from you from managing conferences and stuff, but from this side as an ex-player.
All the clubs I played for are great times. I mean, Bournemouth was probably the 2 clubs I really, really follow are Bournemouth and Luton. They're the 2 I always look out for. So, delighted to see Luton stay up. And, Nathan's done a great job, really, really good job. And Bournemouth, I mean, the club that I left compared to the club that they are now, the success Eddie Howe has had is fantastic. So I'm buzzing, we're absolutely buzzing. Jason Tyndall's taken over now. I think they're top of the league as we speak, aren't they? I think they're top of the championship. So delighted for both of them. And, I'm their biggest fan. They're the 2 teams that I look for all the time, outside of Motherwell, obviously. I've got a real affinity to both clubs. And, if memories, when you speak about it, you remind yourself all the good times you had with it, then it's something you'll be able to tell forever. And I wish both clubs all the very, very best. And hopefully continue in the upward trajectory they're going. Luton's waited so long to get back into that division again, and I'm sure with Nathan doing the job he's doing, hopefully they can go from strength to strength. New stadium, get that new stadium, Gary, come on. And Bournemouth, be delighted to see them get back up again. Great club, super people involved in it, and as I say, I know all the coaching staff there, and still in touch with a lot of people involved with Luton as well. So two good, very, very good clubs. I wish all the very best to.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
I was going to say, hold on, Andrew. And obviously not trying to talk Jason or Nathan out of the job. If Bournemouth or Luton came in for you now, which one would you choose to manage?
Go away, Marv. Motherwell fans give me a hard enough time by asking me questions like that. Both brilliant clubs. I've got a really good job at where I am at the moment.
He's managed his head on.
And I'm really happy. I've got a rare thing in football. I've got people who don't interfere and who I trust impeccably. And that is sometimes replaces money. I've got a good job, good people. I work for really good people, honest people, which, doesn't always happen. Who want me to be successful. And they're two great clubs, two super clubs that are close to my heart. And I hope them two managers stay in the job for a long time. So,
of course, listen, I do. I like to do it. And I love Jonesy as well, Nathan as well. But if Motherwell sacked you now, right, and you're out of work for 4 or 5 years.
After Saturday, there might be a chance to be fair.
And you're out of work for 4 or 5 years, and Bournemouth and Luton both were there. Who would you go for?
Mark, go away.
I'm joking. All right.
I'm saying Luton. I've got to say Luton. We won the league with Luton, so you know what I mean.
I knew you were going to say Luton, to be fair. I knew you were going to say Luton.
You pushed me in that, haven't you?
I know. But listen, that's not me trying to talk you out of a Motherwell.
No, I've never been back there. I've never been back to Kenilworth Road since I left.
Never
been back. Because I've never been out of work. I've always been in work. I've always been here, there, and everywhere. And none of the games have taken me to watch. I've never been back. Never been to see a game. Never been
even scouting.
There's another thing. So,
not like Andrew said, not even scouting.
Not even scouting.
No, see, my chief scout Martin Foyne's based down in that direction, and Martin would do all that kind of stuff down there for me. Any of the games I've went to watch, I've never actually been back to Luton at all for any reason. No, which is a shame. I'll get back soon. Because we always play on a Saturday every time they have games. We have games. So and I've not been out of work for any length of time to get down and see a game. So you never know. Gary Sweet might actually invite me down one day. Might invite me down and pay for my dinner. You never know. I
mean, again, there you go. Look, I don't know if they got up to Scotland. There'd be a friendly for you two to have, like Motherwell host Luton in a friendly or something, in a pre-season friendly or something. There you go.
That would be good. They're always welcome. Both clubs are always welcome. Bournemouth have got a big representation up here. They do a lot of work up here. Richard Hughes is Scottish. He's high up in the club. Carl Fletcher's the head of recruitment, and they like loaning boys up here. It's a good platform for boys to play football. Massive environment. The press is huge, and you've got Rangers and Celtic and 60,000 people in stadiums when they're allowed, obviously. So it's Bournemouth have got a good connection up here. I seem to push some of the young boys up this direction. So Luton not quite so much, but obviously they're maybe got other connections elsewhere.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Steve. And that was Steve Robinson's My Best 11. Thank you, Steve.
Cheers, Andrew.